Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Issa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Giller, with your background in the agency, you had the opportunity to work, obviously, with the intelligence community, somewhat with the military, and somewhat with the State Department. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
So, just for the record, if I go to the State Department, they're going to always have a diplomatic answer that solves everything. You know, watch and engage and talk. If I go to the intelligence community, they're going to say watch, check, and do things clandestinely. And if I go to the military, they're going to say we can fix the problem. We just need boots on the ground. Is that fair to say that in every conflict that is predictable from each of those three pillars of our national defense?
Well, I think many years ago, Lord Salisbury had a quotation that was a sort of a paraphrase of what you just said, Mr. Issa, but it's probably not entirely fair in that I think the professionals in each of those parts of the professional services and the executive branch know full well that they aren't the whole part of the story. Our military knows full well that there is an economic and diplomatic side. The intelligence people are there to serve the other things. So,
well, I asked the rhetorical question for this reason. You mentioned in response to a question that the image on the ground was that with our military attacks or our agency attacks, that we viewed their lives as cheap. In other words, that they had a downside for every upside. We're breaking up the leadership, but at the same time, we're demonstrating that their lives are cheap, and these raids come from the sky and kill without even the so-called honor of standing there and being shot back at. Fair assessment or fair paraphrasing?
Yes, and I think that's reflected in the sorts of things as the poll result that Peter Bergen cited a couple of minutes ago.
Well, I'd like to use your combined intellect of, 600 points or so to ask a question, a bigger question, because I think, look, this was originally the Russians or the British's war, then it was the Russians' war or Soviets' war. Now I guess it's our war. The last time when the Soviets were in, it was the Cold War, and we picked the other side. But we didn't pick it because we wanted to help the Afghans. We picked it because we wanted to hurt the Soviets. That's fair to say by all of you. The head shaking tells me I'm on the right track. Aren't we fairly in a Cold War, primarily with Iran, with Russia as a satellite player? And if we are in a Cold War with Iran, then should we view Afghanistan through who is our real enemy, who is our real friend, what do we have to defeat in order to win this long conflict? And the same could be said if you were here talking about Hamas's activity in Gaza or Hezbollah's activity in Lebanon. I'd pose almost the same question. If all of that is true, then how do we change our direction in a way that causes us to be seen as reluctant to go to war, reluctant to kill, believers that in fact we engage only when we have to and only to the extent we have to. So I'm setting up that stage to say, is our national interest perhaps dealing with Iran and settling that, dealing with perhaps Russia's support in a Cold War way, and to a great extent, isn't the lack of world support in dealing with Afghanistan the result that there's a side that's on one side and therefore there's a side on another side?
Well, I think what we have to do, Mr. Issa, is not reduce things to a strictly red and white, green and white, Cold War kind of thing. The lines of conflict are much more complex than that, and I think you're mentioning Iran this is the first time it came into this hearing. It's very appropriate you should raise it, because Iran and the United States actually have some parallel interests in Afghanistan, as was demonstrated in the wake of our ouster of the Taliban with Operation Enduring Freedom, and the diplomatic work that was done, led by Ambassador Dobbins, with a lot of Iranian help in the Bonn process back in late 2001 to start the political reconstruction process that led to the erection of the Karzai government. Yes, we have conflicting interests, but we've got a lot of parallel and convergent interests, particularly in this country we're talking about today, Afghanistan.
Mr. Bergen?
I think there's an area of common interest in particular that we have with Iran, which is the drug problem. Iran has the highest proportion of heroin users in the world. You can imagine, as there are baby steps taken to normalize relations with Iran, that might be one of the first issues where there is some commonality, where we both have the same strategic interests about the drug problem in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mr. Issa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.